Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on this Monday edition, the 9th day of December, 2013. We've got Dr. Jerome Corsi on the fact that Obama is trying to become a dictator and that that's now becoming mainstream news finally, and what he thinks Obama is going to pull. Joining us for 30 minutes at the bottom of the next hour. I will open the phones up in this hour into the next hour for first-time callers, long-time callers, people that agree, disagree, have a question, have a comment. We'll open the phones up. We'll give the number out in the next segment. There's obviously a ton of important news. By the way, you know that Lieutenant Colonel Bateman, who wrote an article for Esquire magazine saying, we will take it from your cold dead hands, your guns. We will confiscate everything but smooth-bore muskets, black powder guns for hunting. Turns out he does work for Homeland Security, and it turns out that he actually called up a friend of mine who's an Army, formerly an Army officer, who works at a local business. I'm not going to say his name. In fact, Matt hasn't even, there's his first name, said that I couldn't talk about it. In fact, he wants to come on the show, but I'm going to wait. And the point is he sent Bateman an email saying, how dare you be an Army officer and talk about taking guns? And what are you doing in photos wearing some royal medal around your neck? I dare you to call me. Bateman called him yesterday from England. He lives in England. So I made these Benedict Arnold jokes of him looking like a redcoat in the photos. That's because we think those are British medals. And the point is I had Nico this morning call the number, and he's at work. And his wife works for the State Department. By the way, he told Matt all this in like a long conversation. In fact, I'll just call Matt up right now. What do I do with my phone? I actually had my cell phone just a minute ago in my hand. I can't keep track of everything anymore, ladies and gentlemen, in this crazy office. The point is that she said Bateman should be home in a couple hours, and we'll see if he calls us up and comes on the show. But it is certainly pretty crazy to have this type of stuff going on. And when we said we're with InfoWars, Nico said, she goes, oh, InfoWars, I know that. I bet they do. So I really want to get this guy on the air, and I'm going to be nice and let him talk. But the big thing is it looks like he responds to being taunted. So if Bateman doesn't come on the show, he's a chicken. So there you go. He needs to come on and say all this stuff. And reportedly, I saw comments on InfoWars that he's been contacting other people via email and Facebook and stuff. So he's apparently a busy beaver. Scroll down. He's got some British royalty thing around his neck. I mean, this is getting really weird. And so I was saying, move to another country. I guess he has. At least he lives in England. And he's over there, I guess, promoting King George the 18th or something. So that's just some of the news that we have on that front today. Guys, I think I may have left my phone in McBreen's office on his desk because I was in there talking to him about 30 minutes ago. I don't know. Let's just call my phone and walk around the office till we find it, please. It's not really a phone. It's a government-issued Trojan horse, slave tracker, microwave oven to fry my brain. But it has a lot of uses, so I've accepted the gift made by slaves, forged in pain and evil, the satanic palace of communist Chinese slave dens. And I do attempt to use the evil ring of Mordor as a tool against Mordor, but we all know how that ends. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with all the big news and more, and maybe Lieutenant Colonel, we're going to get your guns, Bateman. And I want to reach out to all these colonels teaching gun confiscation. I want them on the broadcast. The year is extremely long in the tooth, as they say. Well, I'm looking at drudgereport.com. The top story, Putin dissolves state media. One of the biggest state-run media outlets in Russia has been dissolved by Herr Putin. He says, I guess, to save money and other things. Kind of like they're cutting back on the state-run media here that claims it's not state-run, but is state-run. And now Obama isn't letting them into press conferences and is just having his own media corps put out info. and CNN is basically collapsing into entertainment. It's the same deal all over the world. Japan basically declared martial law last Thursday, declaring anything they want secret, and the government can basically do whatever it wants in the middle of their 20-year depression. China is going into a depression and is seeing a stock market as well as a real estate bubble implode right now. And what happens when that happens all over the world? What happened before World War I and World War II? What happened before other big regional wars? Every time. If an economy's bad in one country, they don't tend to start a war. But when multiple countries bordering each other or geographically competing for larger markets like the South China Sea and that whole area in Asia and the Pacific, when you've got a bunch of countries in a global recession, depression, what do governments do to stay in power? They start wars, ladies and gentlemen. That is a historical fact. We keep telling you, look for war to come as the global economy melts down. And remember, the globalists understand these cycles, so they attempt to actually orchestrate the cycles, hijack the cycles, surf the cycles, in their own words. Like the Silver Surfer, you know, coming in as the harbinger of doom behind him to destroy the planet in thermonuclear war. I guess the Silver Surfer is the harbinger of Galactus. I mean, that's basically what we're dealing with here. And that's why I get angry by the average person in a checkout line going, hey, Alex, like your show. By the way, did you watch the UT game? And I'm like, you like my show and you're asking me about football. Well, yeah, but you got to have some fun. Yeah, I got it. You got to have some fun. But I'm not going to have fun watching what they tell me to have fun watching. Because there's more propaganda in the ads and during the football games than anywhere else. And I'm just digressing. I just want to stop this. And I feel like I'm not doing enough. I feel like I don't have enough energy and focus. Okay, so I'm not kicking you out there or angry at you, and I'm not on a high horse. I'm just telling you, folks, there's a good chance they're going to start World War III in the next decade. And it might start next week. It might start next year. But almost every analyst, go look at all the top military analysts. Ministry of Defense reports out of England. Department of Defense reports here. The Chinese government's reports. The German reports. The EU reports. The Japanese reports. I've got some of them right here today, in fact. They are saying that we are literally hurtling towards massive war. And remember what Dick Cheney did back in 888 when the Olympics started, launching a sneak attack on areas of Russian-held northern Georgia, South Ossetia, and Abkhazia. Our media ran with the hoax worldwide that the Russians had attacked. And I'm not romanticizing the Russians. I just don't want to start a war with them. And the Russians rolled in medium-range mobile trucks with medium-range thermonuclear weapons on them and said on European and Russian television, in Russian and English, if NATO forces do not pull back and stop and don't stop landing new forces at the capital of Georgia, we're going to launch nuclear missiles at you in Europe. And during the Cuban Missile Crisis, that was a big deal because they were on our doorstep. And we were in the right to say, get your missiles out of here. Well, now here's the West on their doorstep. But the difference is it was #1 news story. And people literally losing sleep because they should have in both governments when nuclear war almost happened in 1961. Now this stuff's happening, and the average trendy literally wants to show off their mismatched socks or how big their mustache is, or, you know, tell me the latest martini, which is fine. Cool. I like your mustache. I like your style. I like your martini. The point is that's not the culture. In fact, historically, a culture like that is what you see right before a world war as well. Things are always very decadent. The roaring 20s before the Depression, all of it. I mean, we are just on the edge of destruction. We are surfing the apocalypse, ladies and gentlemen, and it's already the apocalypse in Central Africa. It's already the apocalypse to people's pension funds in Europe. It's already the apocalypse in areas in China with the slave camps. And I'm just here saying we better decide, can we get this ship fixed and get the holes fixed and get the pumps running? Or do we go to the lifeboats? Because let me tell you something, folks. If you try to go to the lifeboats too late, that's the worst time. And I'm asking myself that same question. In my own life, in my own family, I'm so caught in the routine of the radio, the TV, everything we cover and do here, that Obama has become a dictator, officially. No one even denies it now. Doesn't mean he'll stay in office, but he's made the office totally dictatorial, autocratic, by every yardstick. And it's getting worse by the day now. And I'm just here taking it as well. I can't even, we're always so busy, or I'm always so tired when I'm at home at night, I can't discuss with my wife preparations, or what do we do, or what's our plans. I don't blame anybody for not knowing what to do, because I don't know what to do. I mean, do I run to Switzerland? Do I run to Iceland? Do I run to Tasmania? Do I run to New Zealand? Do I run to the South Pacific? Because believe me, ladies and gentlemen, I don't care about money. Money's like fuel in a gas tank for me. It's fuel to do what I want, to have some security, to be able to stand up for myself. That's all it is. In fact, it's a burden, a responsibility to try to make the money to run the operation and then have enough in reserve to operate and mess with it and everything. Money means, after about 250 protesters following us around all day in the sleet and rain in Dallas, from 10 a.m. until about 4 o'clock, broadcasting live, being beat up by the police, the 25 or 30 people left, I could take them over to the hotel and buy them all dinner and buy them all hot drinks, whether it was cocoa or a hot toddy. That's what I want money for. And that's money well spent. But I tell you, I mean, the only reason I'm still on air, the only reason I'm here at the helm of InfoWars is because I know we've got a chance of beating these people by reaching out to the power structure and those in the infrastructure throughout the strata, in corporate, ecclesiastical, governmental, private lives, homeschoolers, public schoolers, police, military, bureaucrats. The writing is far beyond being on the wall. It is flaming. It is naked. It is loud. It is bold. It is like sirens and red flags and explosions going off and start guns going off. I mean, it's like the 4th of July rolled into the Kentucky Derby, rolled into a hydrogen bomb going off. Just ring, 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 ring. You can hear the air raid sirens culturally, historically. I mean, it's just, and that's why the elite's so corrupt now. They've actually gone to the phase of grabbing everything not nailed down and running. That's the big sign, is all the rich are running out of Europe, running out of Israel, running out of the U.S., they're all running to the north of Canada, or they're running to Idaho, it's even in USA Today. They're building giant bunkers. They're getting private security. They're buying weapon systems. Why? Because they know what they've done. And we've done it too, letting them do it. You want to know who's to blame for all this, folks? And I say this to myself as well. We ought to create an intro with clips of V talking where he says, you know, how bad the establishment is. But he says, if you really want to know who's behind it, you are. Just look in the mirror. And that's right. And I'm willing to look in the mirror. And that's why I don't want you calling up, telling me how great I am, telling me how much you appreciate me. Listen, we are on a ship that is frickin' sinking, man. We got enemies running around putting more weapon systems on the bottom of it, trying to sink it, because they're already going to be offshore. It's a very tiny elite that want to actually bring down civilization. Very tiny. We're talking about a few thousand globalists here that really know the master plan. They've written on it, too. I mean, we know what their plan is, but even their minions even their adjuncts, even their proteges do not know, okay? Now, we've decompartmentalized their operation, and others have. And now it's getting viral spread because people are going, whoa, I checked into this guy. He's telling the truth. And I'm not telling you something that I deserve a medal for. The enemy published it all. That's been their miscalculation. They're proud of their evil. But you and I and all of us together have to get really aggressive, peacefully and politically and economically now, ahead of all hell breaking loose. Depression, war, civil war, just absolute nightmares. We have to admit this is happening and be able to turn it around. Be right back. Well, Matt Pearson sent an email to one of my friends, Matt Pearson, who was in the Army, sent an email to the guy challenging him to man up and call him and explain himself. And the person called from England saying he is the Colonel Bateman and said basically that he defends his stance. Then there's another Bateman of the exact same name who's also a colonel who says he is not this guy. So we're going to have another article out by Paul Watson to ascertain exactly what's going on and clear that up. But regardless, you've got the Small Wars Journal and people that teach at West Point, a whole bunch of them now, and at Texas A&M teaching that they're going to repeal the Second Amendment. And that is the issue here. So we're going to develop the proper, not even so much correction, but clarification. And our apologies to the other Bateman. So that is coming up, and we'll get all of that lined up properly. All right, folks, here's the good news. People are starting to wake up to what's happening. And here's an article out of the Huffington Post, of all places, talking bad about their dear leader. Obama faces backlash because of secret trade deals. The Obama administration appears to have almost no discussion with anybody, and they're keeping the entire plan secret. In fact, guys, will you print me this in printer-friendly? Thanks a lot. This wasn't printed in printer-friendly, so I could actually read that article on air for folks. But that was brought to me by somebody else. Not your fault. Nobody's fault. Point is that there it is. Obama faces backlash over new corporate powers and secret trade deal. There's the full headline by Zach Carter up on the Huffington Post. So there is that report. Here is another one. Barack Obama's de facto totalitarian nation. That's the Intrepid report, going through the examples of total tyranny and the dictatorship from the NDAA to Obamacare. Here's another one by the New American. Why are key Obama policies shrouded in secret? Congress investigates Obama's attempt to become a dictator. We have all those links up on Infowars.com. Cruz, Senator Cruz, slams the lawless, that's a quote, implementation of Obamacare. That's right, it's totally lawless how they've now taken the unconstitutional criminal tax law. That's what it is, it's a tax. Supreme Court ruled it. I told you it was a tax to foreign banks and globalist pirates. And now he says he'll implement whatever he feels like on any given day. So if you're an insider, you're exempt. If you're not, you're totally hammered. And this is the genius of tyranny. So the good news is this is starting to come out. You know, they said you could keep your doctor and your price would go down to the cost of a telephone or cable bill. Well, now Ezekiel Emanuel, the doctor who helped write it, he's the main architect, says you can keep your doctor as long as you're willing to pay more. That video is up on Infowars.com from Fox News Sunday. Told Chris Wallace that. So there you go. He said, of course you could keep it like Obama said, but he meant pay more. And we have that clip. Let's go ahead and play that clip here for viewers.
Isn't it a fact, sir, that most, in fact, of the Obamacare health plans that are being offered on the exchanges exclude a number of doctors and hospitals to lower costs?
The president never said you were going to have unlimited choice of any doctor in the country you want to go. Let me just finish.
Wait, no. He asked a question. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Did he not say that, sir?
He didn't say you can have unlimited choice.
It's a simple yes or no question. Did he say if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor?
Yes, but look, if you want to pay more for an insurance company that covers your doctor, you can do that. This is a matter of choice. We know in all sorts of places you pay more for a wider range of choices or a wider range of benefits. The issue isn't the selective networks. People keep saying, oh, the problem is you're going to have a selective network.
If you lose your doctor or you lose your hospital.
Let me just say something. People are going to have a choice as to whether they want to pay a certain amount for a selective network or pay more for a broader network.
Which will mean your premiums will probably go up.
They get that choice. That's a choice we always make.
Which means your premium may go up over what you were paying. So that, in other words...
No one guaranteed you that your premium wouldn't increase. Premiums have been going up.
The president guaranteed me I could keep my doctor.
Under President... And if you want to, you can pay for it. Under President Bush.
That's enough. Full clips up on Infowars.com. Remember, this is the same guy that said, of course we're trying to bankrupt things and get rid of the single payer. That's all they're doing is nationalizing it, but it won't even be true socialism. That's bad enough. It's worse. It's total fascism, robbery, foreign tax. About Lieutenant Colonel Robert Bateman, we have learned a lot more. If you're watching on TV, you can see the original Esquire story from last week. It's time to talk about guns and the Supreme Court. And it says Lieutenant Colonel Robert Bateman. Now, when you look up Lieutenant Colonel Robert Bateman, you get this gentleman, if you're watching on television, who contacted us and said, I am not the person. Now, we didn't link to his LinkedIn, but we showed where it came from, and it fits the exact same name and looks like another Bateman who says he works for the agency, the private policing agency. So these guys might be related or something. I mean, they look very, very similar. It's now become a mystery. And that's all a side issue. We're going to clarify that in the article. But the other Robert Bateman who lives in the U.S., who he says this is a photo of, is not the guy that said ban the guns. This guy's reportedly says he's a patriot. So imagine, that'd be terrible. There's another guy named Alex Jones, who's a radio host and looked just like me. And let's say I guess there are 7.5 billion people. So we're going to figure out, get to the bottom of this, but we apologize for any angry phone calls or whatever. But, you know, used to, or emails, there was an Alex Jones that lived in Austin who was also a videographer and photographer. And I think his website's like Silver Spider or something. And he would call me and email me and say, would you please tell your listeners that I'm not you? I get hundreds of communications a week and threats and everything else. And I'm like, sorry, same name. It's an act of God or an act of randomness with your parents. But how do you have a Colonel Bateman, who is the same name? Okay, now here's the deal. This fell on my lap, Matt Pearson, is an Army veteran, good friend of mine. We go out and do some shooting. You can see him in some of the Brothers of Arms TV shows. And he's also the great chef out at the Steiner Steakhouse. And he's taking a break right now away from running the show over there and some of the best steaks in Texas to come on with us. And I don't just say that because they're my friends. I go eating there all the time. And, of course, you know, see my buddy Shane Steiner, Sid Steiner, and the rest of the folks, Bobby Steiner. But the point is that a lot of people got angry by this. And so somehow, and I need Matt's help on this to email our producer, because he found the real contact to Robert Bateman, Colonel Robert Bateman, Bob Bateman. He found the real contact. The guys in England sent him a contact and said, how dare you say things like this? You ought to call me back and defend yourself as a fellow Army veteran. The guy called him back this weekend. And so Matt let me know. And sure enough, he gave me the number he called on from England. His wife answered, it's him. And when he gets home from work, he's supposedly going to come on. So he needs to come on for himself so that this can be separate from the other Mr. Bateman. And so we can clarify all these statements in Esquire and other places. Okay, because the issue is there's a bunch of other colonels at West Point and in Foreign Wars, Small Wars Journal, and the rest of it saying war with the Tea Party, gun confiscation, cold dead hand. The point is this is part of a major move, okay? And this is what Forbes and others have been covering for a long time, not just us. So I wanted to get Matt Pearson on. He's got to go in just a few minutes to tell us how we contacted him, and then off-air tell us what the real contact is, because we have his phone number from you. This is obviously the real guy. They admit, yeah, this is the guy, because I want to try to, clarify this guy from the other guy. So you talked to him, and you told me in text, we haven't talked at length yet, we'll do that on air, that indeed, Matt, he called you back and you had a lengthy conversation and that he defended all of this. Matt Pearson, thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me, Alex.
Okay, so tell us how you contacted him and tell us what he said to you.
Okay, well, I guess basically the contact was made. I'm a member of the organization. I was on their forums and I had noticed that nobody had really written anything about him, and I'd been reading about him in the news for the past couple days, and I pinned a topic in there talking about him, and it didn't take long before it enraged a bunch of the guys on that website. They're all, most of them are either retired or active duty or veterans from the police force or the armed forces, and there's a lot of backlash. A lot of people really upset with what he said, and one guy posted his email address. So after sitting around making beer, chili, and drinking beer for a couple hours, I decided it was time to send him an email, and basically told him I wanted him to go out and publicly apologize to all the troops and for the fact that he is an oath breaker and has gone against what he swore to protect the Constitution. About 20 minutes later, he emailed me back. I emailed him again. I switched emails with him a couple times, and the final one, I put my phone number on there. I said, hey, give me a call. I don't really want to sit here and type emails back and forth. And to my surprise, last night he called me back, which I don't know what the time difference is, but I think he said it was 3 or 4 in the morning. And yeah, he stood by everything that he wrote in that article.
Well, now there's a new horrifying twist. There's another Lieutenant Colonel Robert Bateman, according to Capital Link World, who looks a lot like the other one that's on this law enforcement consulting site where the real Bateman is. And can you imagine being the other Lieutenant Colonel Robert Bateman, who isn't this guy? I mean, boy, I feel sorry for him.
Yeah, he mentioned to me that he's had over 3,000 emails since he wrote that article, and a lot of them were death threats and people threatening to rape his wife and kidnap his kids or something like that. And I try to keep it really respectful with him because I respect anybody that served in the armed forces. I mean, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, even if it's wrong. But and he, I guess that was probably the reason why he reached out to me, because when I emailed him, the title of the email was very respectful. I thank you for your service. And then once he opened it up, he realized that it really wasn't. His plan that he mapped out to me was he has a 100-year plan to start disarming Americans. Yeah,
but that's how they always do it. They say we're going to do this over time, and then really it's over 10 years. That's a standard tactic.
Right. I mean, you're talking about a constitution that's only a couple 100 years old. So I mean, to think that you can start disarming people now and have it in 100 years from now, I mean, that's, it's all the same. Every week, you hear about somebody else attacking the Second Amendment. So it's just discouraging to see it from an officer in the military. I know when I was in, officers didn't come out and just openly say things like that because they would probably be relieved of their command, if not of their service. And on top of that, I can't understand how a guy who's a lieutenant colonel is writing for a magazine, and apparently he has a blog too, and he writes all kinds of craziness in his blog too. So I don't understand. I don't think that would be tolerable for anybody to do that.
Well, we're sorry for the collateral damage, but how can you know? And there's another Lieutenant Colonel Robert Bateman linked in as the other guy. I think that's an example of the internet. I feel sorry for other Alex Joneses. There's like 8 of them that live in Austin. I've been told by them that by multiple Alex Joneses, will you please tell your listeners that I'm not the Alex Jones they think I am, and to stop coming to my house? And I'm like, I'm sorry. They just Google Alex Jones. Yeah, there's one of the other Alex Joneses.
Yeah,
and I mean, that's not me. I'm sorry, go ahead, what?
No, I said that. I'm sure that other colonel's probably getting some hate mail, too, I'd imagine.
Oh, no, he sent us an email, and he said, this is not me, and, we have the same name, but I'm getting hammered. So, again, I just feel bad for him. Everybody needs to, who did get it wrong, just like I did, needs to apologize to him as well. But he wants me to take his picture down. I think we should have his picture on there to say this isn't the right guy, or it'll just continue on. But I got to call the guy and find out. Even when you try to journalistically get everything right, sometimes when there's these weird act of God's coincidences, there's nothing you can do, except correct it afterwards.
That's the picture of the guy, the kind of white hair and the glasses that going around right now. I think that picture of him was actually on the link to the article that I read.
Yeah, and if you follow it, well, that's a case of the internet getting it all scrambled. This guy is not the guy I'm showing people on TV. And I think we have photos. Have you found a photo, Matt, of the real one?
No, I haven't. But I was talking to some people, and I was saying, hey, this guy did not look like, I know you can't really look at a picture of somebody and say, hey, that didn't sound like it would be that guy. But, this guy sounded a lot younger than the picture that you say the wrong guy. So, that probably makes a little more sense.
Yeah, there's shots on the defense side of a shaved head guy who looks a lot like this guy, but younger.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of guys that are on the Oath Keepers website talking about it right now. One of them said he works for Department of Homeland Security. So
No. The one that did this for Esquire, who wrote the article for Esquire, basically tracks back to that. So, yes. Well, didn't you say you learned his wife works for the State Department? The real one that wrote the article that you talked to? Right.
That's what he told me last night. Right. I don't know how I think it got. We were speaking of what the purpose of the Second Amendment was. He said it was to stop slave rebellions. I asked him if he thought that it was had anything to do with the protection of a tyrannical government. He said, no, absolutely not. Why don't you trust your government? And at that point, I was like, well, look at Benghazi, look at the IRS, look at everything that's going on right now. And he's like, oh, well, what do you think happened in Benghazi? Because that was all over a YouTube video. At that point, I was kind of like, oh, okay. I didn't know that anybody was still sticking by that story. I thought that was already debunked. But apparently, he said, yeah, my wife works for the State Department. I'd wake her up and let you talk to her right now. But, yeah, that was the video that caused all that.
Well, I love this. Why do you need guns? Trust your government. That's famous last words. Look at how the government's arming to the teeth against us. And then he has these double-sided, thinly veiled things like, oh, we will take them from your cold, dead hands when you die.
Right.
And then reportedly we're trying to track it, but it looks like it's the right colonel because the other colonel didn't write it. And it is on this other one's blog, these questions about, I'm sorry for what's going to happen to you now. That's why we've called Bateman, and we have told him come on the show. So we're ready for him to come on, and he should put his picture out and be proud of himself so everybody can see it. What else did he say about the Second Amendment? Because it had nothing to do with slave revolts. It did have to do with the French and Indian War and the fact that the French would hire the Indians to kill people, the British would do it, everybody wanted weapons, and you were on the frontier. But and then it happened to do with self-defense. They're always trying to paint gun ownership as racist. The first gun laws were in the South against black folks. The Ku Klux Klan wanted gun bans. The NRA was founded to arm blacks to protect themselves. Did you tell this guy any of that history?
History didn't really seem like something he really cared to talk about. And any time that I brought up anything to do with the Second Amendment, it was diverted to, well, this is the problem. We have this violent culture, and we have to change our culture. And the way that is, you're allowed to have your double-barrel shotgun and your bolt-action rifle that holds 5 rounds, and no more assault weapons, as people like to call them. And every time I would say, hey, well, what does the definition of the word infringed mean to you? And he didn't want to, he just kind of just strayed away from that altogether.
But they've registered all the guns in New York, and now they're banning everything 5 rounds and up, and banning guns that can take a larger mag, and using the purchase list to confiscate them. And the goal is to take our guns. So that's a classic psyop. Classic psyop to say, 100 years, to then introduce the idea. That's all they're doing is acclimating.
Right. Yeah, and that's a whole other issue. But, people say that registration doesn't lead to confiscation, but look at the letter these guys are getting in New York City right now. You tell me. It's illegal for the government to hold a weapons registration. Obviously, they do purchase a weapon. These guys were able to, track you down to your address and send you a letter saying, hey, I know what you got in your gun safe. Then it said, surrender your rifle. Immediately surrender your rifle. I thought that was interesting. I didn't think you could tell a free man something like that and not get laughed at. But I don't know. This guy seems to be on the same track. So,
well, you're absolutely right. And look, he's following Bloomberg propaganda points, because Daily Caller story went viral last week about New York City. The few concealed carry holders or hunting rifle holders in the city are getting letters to turn their guns in that can hold over 5 rounds or take a larger clip. But it's statewide. Connecticut now has its registration going into effect in 1 month or less than 1 month. So it's here. And they can't have it where they say, oh, we don't want your guns. Just let us restrict them and ban some. Their goal is the abolition of force in the hands of the people. And Bateman says that in Esquire.
Yep, he sure did. And he'll stand by it. If you get him on the phone tonight, he's not going to back down from anything that he wrote on there at all.
Well, listen, he needs to also clarify, because the internet's got him listed, you know, with that photo and the rest of it. So we need the real Bateman to publicly come out. And it sounds like he's proud of himself. And again, so many of these people aren't even inherently evil. They literally are Fruit Loops. Who doesn't know Chicago, New York, D.C. have the highest crime rates? Mexico has a total gun ban and has the highest crime rate in the world. Only the criminals in government have guns. I mean, doesn't he really believes this? I mean, so he's a true believer who would call you in the middle of the night, England time, to talk to you and defend himself. Wow.
Yeah, I was shocked. I was shocked when I got the number, when the number came up on phone, because I mean, it's like you said, and like he was saying, he had 3,000 emails that he was responding to. But I mean, this guy was able to return, you know, shoot emails back and forth with me every 10 minutes and then call me immediately out of 3,000 other emails. I thought that was kind of strange. But apparently, you know, reading up on the Oath Keeper site, they said that he's pretty much reaching out to anybody that's reaching out to him. I said, you know, if you email a guy, he's going to email you back. And, you know, it is what it is, I guess.
Well, I'll tell you what, if it's the right one, just so we have it on record, then he wants to be reached out to, give folks his email. Do you have it in front of you?
I don't have it in front of me, but it's like Lieutenant Colonel Robert Bateman at yahoo.com or something very similar to that. I can give it to you. I can tell you something, and you can put it up there if you'd like to.
Yeah, do this. We're going to go to break and let you go. Take a few minutes, and then you mind texting me on my personal phone the email? Oh, there it is. It's on the Yahoo story.
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go. That's how they got. I was wondering how the Oath Keepers got a hold of it.
No, it's on the Esquire sites. We need to make sure the right one gets added to our article that we're correcting, or not even so much correcting, clarifying. It's r_Bateman_LTC at hotmail.com. We need to search that email in conjunction. I guess Watson did search that and come up with the other photos. So that's the problem, is the internet's got it all spliced together. That was the first time I got accused of being a lay Catholic priest. Was somebody sent me an email. It's not that it's bad to be a Catholic priest. And they said, I know you're a Catholic priest and working with the Vatican. And I said, well, who is it? It was like a 65-year-old black guy. But they didn't care. So it was like proof, because his name was Alex Jones, that that's me. I mean, I am now African-American. Anyways, all right. Well, Matt Pearson, thank you so much, and for giving us his phone number, and I hope he'll come on this show.
Yeah, anytime. I'd love to do that. Yeah, like I said, good luck talking to him. Doesn't sound like you're going to change his opinion, but, well, you know, some people are good.
Well, I got to come in there to the steakhouse and eat that the best ribeye out there, buddy.
I got one waiting for you. I'll pick the best one out we got.
You're a sweetheart. All right, folks, we'll be right back. Stay with us. Obama faces backlash over new corporate powers in secret trade deal, handing governmental control over trade to private corporations, and the agreement is even secret. Now, we've been talking about this, obviously, for months, but finally, I've got a whole stack of news. I mentioned the headlines earlier, where the lawlessness of Obama is coming out, because it is a dictator when one man decides to do whatever he wants. Now, the truth is he's a front man for the globalist, but still, it is a puppet dictator. And when you give the office dictatorial power, a lot of times the autocratic seat can actually be seized by a real dictator, and not just a group of oligarchs and kingmakers behind the throne. So this whole thing runs from bad to worse. Coming up, Seymour Hersh alleges Obama administration lied on Syria gas attack. That's now out of Yahoo News. Big story there. 3 years on from Japan's nuclear emergency, the fallout continues to spread. That's out of the News of Australia. It is record level radiation with a huge radioactive wave set to hit in about 2 months on the West Coast. I mean, this is just crazy. It's taken that long for it to get over here. And here's another headline from Infowars.com. Japanese media fears war with China next year, fears China will stage a provocation or false flag, the Japan Times notes, to get into a war because of economic collapse. So the Japanese are talking about government staging events to get into wars to hide China's collapsing economy. Sounds like I said that. Well, folks, that's how real politics actually works. And the fact is the cat's out of the bag how these things operate. So that story's up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. And then coming up the next hour, this just broke, CBS News, D.C. police chief, alleged misconduct by officers devastating. Reportedly, the D.C. police chief's given a press conference saying that separate misconduct investigations of 2 officers, including one accused of running a prostitution operation from his apartment, and others running child porn operations. I mean, that's the lawless D.C. department that 3.5 years, 4 years, or maybe longer, D.C. Heller saying your gun laws are unconstitutional, repeal them. They've expanded them. They've expanded them. So that's the lawlessness of these individuals, ladies and gentlemen. Now, before I go any further, we have a lot of new items that we're adding because we fund ourselves by selling high-quality products that are very useful. We now have 2 new products. We have the Fluoride Shield that has 6 different compounds in it, from nascent iodine to Shilajit to you name it, that all act to pull the toxic fluoride and other heavy metals and toxins out of the body. And this was designed by Dr. Ed Grube, who I just totally respect. And you can also get the Survival Shield discounted. And you've got limited amounts. It's going to sell out in a day or 2. It's almost gone. The first batch of the Super Male Vitality. I mean, I thought, why not come out with something that's actually got high-quality ingredients and blows away the competition at about 40% off the leading competitor. And believe me, folks, everybody that's used the nascent iodine has been blown away. I don't hype stuff. And by the way, I'm shutting it off Wednesday. 20% off with promo code WATER20 at InfoWarsStore.com. On the ProPure entire family of stainless steel gravity-fed filters. Give the gift of no fluoride in the water or glyphosates, or start filtering your water today. All filters are not created equal. Find out at InfoWarsStore.com, and you can also find it at InfoWarsStore.com or InfoWarsLife.com. All of the InfoWars Life products, like the super high-quality Mexican high mountain coffee. Stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now back live. And we are into hour number 2. I'm going to open the phones up. If you are just joining us, I'm going to recap some of the top stories. But I'm opening the phones up on mainstream media now being forced to admit that Obama is completely dictatorial. Well, if you're completely dictatorial and secretive and persecuting your opposition, it means you're an authoritarian dictator and very autocratic, not just a dictator, not a malevolent dictator, but a tyrannical dictator, worse than even a malevolent. You're certainly not a benevolent or the friendly, loving dictator. So Obama is rapidly becoming the very worst type, and it shows that the power structure that runs this country would rather have an oppressive dictator in countries that they overthrow and where they install people. So, of course, this is a design, and you see each president becoming worse and worse. The problem is Obama will get all these dictatorial gains, and then by the time we get another president in with all the big problems that globalism has brought, even if they aren't as overt as Obama has been, we're already in a quasi-dictatorship. Look how they're restricting free speech. Look across the board what's happening. I want to hear from listeners on all these subjects. 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. And we are going to take your calls, 800-259-9231. And I've got a bunch of other news. Google's Eric Schmidt wants a ban on Amazon drones. I knew that was coming, to put a ban on private drones, so you only have government drones. This is all a big shell game. And we're also going to get into D.C. police chief, alleged misconduct by officers devastating, including underage reported prostitution ring. And then other officers connected to child porn, you name it. Mark Washington was charged in felony court this week for procuring child pornography. I mean, these people are just unbelievable. I just tell you. I can take one look at the D.C. cops, and you don't judge a book by their cover, but a lot of times you can. Like every time you see a TSA minion who's been caught molesting some kid, and it's like on a weekly basis, they always look the same. They always look like some little wimpy, greasy, slimy, like, oh, that guy looks like a pedo bear. And it's just unbelievable. And government gives them a place to thrive where they wouldn't thrive outside of it. And, you know, who's going to watch the government? That's what the question comes down to in the final equation. Also, we've got a bunch of other news we're going to be breaking down and getting to. Obviously, there is a ton of it. New York City has the highest number of homeless children since the Great Depression. We're in a depression. We're having record cold. Where did the global warming go? We've got IRS using Google Maps to spy on taxpayers. It's all up on DrudgeReport.com and Infowars.com. Authorities kill endangered snowy owls at JFK Airport. That's a felony for you or I, but not for them, because they're God. But Snowden says NSA spying on World of Warcraft. Well, of course they are. DHL's testing drone deliveries. Schmidt, only government should have drones. That's just some of what's up on Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.com, and I'm also looking right now, if you're watching on TV, at DrudgeReport.com. It's all coming up straight ahead, ladies and gentlemen, on the other side of this quick break. And we are going to, again, as I said, take your phone calls. But remember 3 weeks ago, StoryLeak.com with Infowars.com broke the separate cell towers they're putting up to steal all your data under Homeland Security. That's now in USA Today. Coming up, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a lot of key intel to break down. Local cops are tapping cell phone data with Homeland Security funding. We broke that 3 weeks ago, but now it's in USA Today. IRS using Google Maps to spy on taxpayers. FBI can secretly activate individuals' webcam. That's being reported by the Washington Post. I told you this 15 years ago, ladies and gentlemen, because it was all on record then. The point is, this is all coming out now, and it's up on DrudgeReport.com and, of course, Infowars.com. And if we go over and look at what's on Infowars.com, China-Japan conflict could lead to World War III, warns former UN ambassador. That's Paul Joseph Watson. Corporate media ignores evidence CIA's al-Nusra responsible for Syrian sarin attack. And I think Nemo should probably add that Cy Hirsch has now gone public that he has evidence it was al-Qaeda that launched it. Two-time Pulitzer Prize winner, the greatest living journalist, who also came out and said that the bin Laden raid was fake and bin Laden was already dead. Telling you, folks, you just got to admit the facts here. Also, Japanese media fears war with China next year. We got an article by Watson as well, our prolific researcher and writer, up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com, where he breaks down the entire fact here that the majority of their media believes China will stage a provocation. That's a quote. Will stage an event accidentally or on purpose, quote, which could take the form of a civilian airliner being forced to land and the passengers held hostage, or more, to start a war. And they go on to talk about having a war with China, and basically the Japanese Diet, their Congress, basically declared martial law last week, so they can do anything they want and have it be secret. And so it's the same deal. Governments everywhere. This is what happens during global meltdowns. Go dictatorial. And that's what we're warning everybody about. We're going to go right to your calls here in a moment. The toll-free number is 800-259-9231 on this Monday, December 9th, 2013 transmission. You can follow yours truly, Alex Jones, on Twitter at RealAlexJones. A lot of exclusive content there. I suggest folks sign up there, and on our 3 big Facebook pages that have 1 million likes. It's important to like us on those as well. You can find links to all those in the top of any article page on PrisonPlanet.com or Infowars.com. You can find links through there to our big Facebook and our big Twitter, and then some of our smaller Facebooks and tweet sites and all the rest of it. Okay, let's go to a quick report, though, dealing with China and war games and how serious this is, with South Korea now extending their air defense zone into Chinese areas that they've now grabbed in international waters, and the Japanese expanding into that in day-to-day fighter jet and fighter bomber confrontations that look just like what we saw during the Cold War. Is it saber rattling and just a political distraction? Let's hope so. But this is how big wars start. And you know that the U.S. has, quote, pivoted the last 2 years to Asia in a war scenario with the Chi-Coms, who have got thousands of nuclear weapons, hundreds of large surface ships, submarines, and how many people in their army? Is it something like 15 million last time I checked? The U.S. is about 1 million. And you could say, oh, what does that matter? We'll just nuke them. Folks, the globalists that run America have moved everything to China. They're playing a very weird geopolitical double, triple game. So I don't even know what to say at this point. It is so dangerous what the globalists are up to. They're the threat, not American gun owners, ladies and gentlemen. Devaluation of the dollar is the threat, not homeschoolers. I mean, you watch the news, folks. Every time I watch a sitcom or a drama or a police show, they pull over a horrible child molester or a drug dealer or whatever, and they go, oh, you got a gun. You're going to jail for that, to create the illusion that guns are illegal. And that's why cops nationwide will arrest you for a legal gun. And the police station will stand there by them because they've seen it on TV. That's what you're supposed to do. American gun owners are the solution, not the problem. And I know most frontline police know that, but the bureaucrats are Fed-run. But let's go to this report here by John Bowne.
The Japan Times notes 5 out of 9 weekly magazines that went on sale last Monday and Tuesday contain scenarios that raise the possibility of a shooting war with China as soon as next year in response to Beijing's imposition of an air defense zone over the disputed Senkaku Islands. The Sunday Mainichi speculates that the communist superpower would utilize a false flag in the form of a civilian airliner being forced to land and passengers held hostage. Another scenario revolves around China targeting oil supertankers bound for Japan. If China were to target them, nothing could be worse to contemplate, wrote author Osamu Iya. Shuken Gendai, a weekly magazine sold by the largest publishing house in Japan, even speculated that Chinese President Xi Jinping could order the shoot-down of a Japanese civilian airliner, prompting a response from the United States that could lead to a fighter jet battle. Unlike Japan, the U.S. military would immediately respond to a radar lock-on threat by shooting down the Chinese planes. According to Saburo Takai, writing for Flash, China is intent on reclaiming the Senkaku Islands by force if necessary, but still fears a military confrontation with the United States, a concern emphasized by Beijing's failure to respond to America's provocative B-52 bomber incursion of the air defense zone last month. In recent months, the Chinese have boasted that their aircraft carrier task force rivals the U.S. Navy. In October, the PLA released a map of major U.S. cities and how they would be impacted by a nuclear attack launched from the PLA's strategic submarine force. And with bluster straight out of a science fiction novel, the Chinese media outlets announced plans to turn the moon into a Death Star capable of launching missiles towards any target on Earth.
The fate of China and the United States have become linked in a way far beyond what any of us could imagine. We are now facing a common challenge. And the challenge is how to build a world order for the first time in history on a global basis.
For Infowars.com. John Bowne reporting.
And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is what's going on in this society. We're going to take calls for this segment and the next. And then Dr. Jerome Corsi, who worked in the State Department and in special operations, secret operations, we'll just leave it at that, very informed, who has the connections. He was the one saying before the last election, look, Obama may become a dictator. And I knew he wouldn't just say that. If that wasn't the word up there in D.C., and now he is a dictator, but he's at that key point where if we challenge him and back him off, then it can be a victory. If we can reverse them during their offensive, that's one of the best blows against a takeover. If we just kind of complain about it as usual, they're going to move forward. I mean, look how they've done Obamacare, the total ripoff. So now they're taking pension funds in California and Michigan and everywhere. They're going to take everything, folks. If we put, Thomas Jefferson said, the level of tyranny you will live under is the level of tyranny that you will accept. So there's always bad people that'll fill the vacuum if you've got a nation of sheep. I mean, if we all became sheep right now and started going out and there were no more humans and there were just millions of us walking around eating grass, you would suddenly have wild dogs and coyotes and wolves coming back in and mass producing en masse. They would suddenly eat almost all the sheep, and then they'd have a mass die-off starvation scenario. So we have become a nation of sheep, and it has produced wolves. I mean, it's just 2 + 2 = 4. I know Common Core teaches 5 because wolves don't want you to know how to add. Imagine if we were sheep, you would have wolves in the class going 2 + 2 = 5. Literally, so the sheep wouldn't, and like wolf is good, sheepdog is bad. And the sheep go, sheepdog bad, wolf good. I mean, Obama good, George Washington bad. JJ in Texas, you're on the air. Go ahead. Okay.
Hey, Alex, how you doing today, man?
I'm all right, JJ. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not giving into the spirit of the New World Order. I think that we're being assimilated by the government to accept whatever they'll, send us through the state-run media, and I'm just not going to accept that as a proud American.
Well, I agree with you. So what do? We fight back.
We have to fight back. People are so desperate, and people are poor these days. They're trying to get on their feet, and, of course, they'll accept help from anybody. So they think the government's their friend, and the government isn't set up to run, our population. The citizens are supposed to run the population. That's where we need to get back to, where the citizens take control, not the government.
Well, that sounds like terror talk.
No. I don't believe that. I believe we can do something if we stand against the New World Order. We know what their plan is. They want to take over financially, economically, socially.
And then literally play God and re-engineer the planet with geoengineering in the seas, on the land, and in the sky. They literally, and Ray Kurzweil, the head of Google, and their future technology development program, one of the top 5 guys at Google, says he doesn't believe in God yet, and that he will be the first God. Now, again, that's crazy talk. God bless you. I appreciate your call. All right, good to hear from you. All right, we're going to go to Judy, Travis, Joe, Truth Raider, and others on the other side of this break. Try to go through your calls quickly. Then, of course, he's coming up. Then I'll continue with calls into the next third hour and a ton of news that we've only scratched the surface on. But bottom line, a nation of sheep will be ruled by wolves. And you know what wolves do to sheep.
Hi, Alex. It's good to talk to you again. I'm wondering whether or not it's because of the actual political awakening that the amount of chaos is being wrought, because I know that there's work being done by a lot of good people in a lot of states and across America in general, and it seems as though they're the only rational voices left, and it seems like it could be, open war internationally any time now if the things aren't brought back into check. And I don't know how you feel about that. Are you there?
Oh, I'm listening to you. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it's completely silent, so I didn't know if it got cut off or something.
Oh, no, I understand. It's rare for the parrot to shut up.
No, well, yes, you are a parrot. I'm not going to deny it. But, it's like, I have talked to people in a couple different organizations, and it's really disheartening and at the same time very encouraging. Because there's a lot of feelings that, the real perpetrators, the main things I believe are impeachment of Obama, and then if it could be possible, and that's a lot of work that's being done, is to reinstate Glass-Steagall.
I totally agree, and it is so incredibly shameful and really shows you how much trouble we're in that Congress has had a few hearings about this, but that they haven't moved to impeach him, that certifies and sets the precedent on every front. And actually, I'm not like a parrot because parrots repeat what they're told, but I do kind of squawk like one. So I guess you could say I'm the parrot with a brain. That's better than the Obama sheeple. Obama. But expanding on that, you're absolutely right. We need to get rid of the unconstitutional banking laws they have right now that allow them to engage in all forms of counterfeiting and crime, and then attach our tax money to back it up when it fails by design in a Cloward and Piven strategy. And then we've absolutely, unequivocally, have to move for impeachment to then roll up this entire group of criminals, the Attorney General, all of them, because that's the essence of dictator. They're powerful, they're in place, they get away with murder, and they set the precedent. Great points. God bless you. Yeah, no, I mean, that's the solution, is punish wrongdoers. Make corrupt government look over their shoulder. Getting politically involved. Keep government on a short leash or you'll be on a short leash. And the good news is Congress has a 6% approval rating. The lowest ever recorded. But again, that's because it's nameless and faceless to the average person. They think of that as the government. They should just have we should fund a Gallup poll of... but they never let you ask the question straight, though, or a Reuters poll or a Rasmussen or something about your view of the government. Just do you trust the government? Straight up poll. And I guarantee it's going to be less than 10%, ladies and gentlemen, and that's good news. The problem is they know they're being lied to. They don't know how deep the water is. It's like looking out on a lake and saying, I wonder how deep it gets out there. Bottomless. Let's go to Travis in Washington. You're on the air.
Alex.
Hey, buddy.
Hello. Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good, brother.
I got a personal question for you. Do your kids have birth certificates, Alex?
They do have birth certificates.
Okay, why don't you fund a lawsuit for ID theft then, man? I mean, somebody's got to do this, or that's...
No, you're right, because they end up taking that and then putting it into the bonds and using them as collateral on the national debt. That is a fact.
Well, who's holding the bonds? The person in possession of the bonds is the actual thief, and the doctors and the hospitals.
Oh, that's right. The IMF, World Bank, all of it. They admit we're, quote, human resources. People ask, well, why do they have birth certificates? I do that so I could get out of the country with them if I need to. It's like, I know I'm in Nazi Germany. It's like saying, why do I have papers then? Because they've already got the biometric scans. We've already lost all these battles. Now we're so deep into the technocracy that, you know, it's a debate about being in the system or not being in the system. I'm in the system to a great extent. My children are homeschooled. They go to a homeschool academy, but that's a good question. Travis, I'm going to come back to you if you can hold after Corsi leaves, as well as Joe, Truth Raider, and Michael. It'll be 30 minutes until he leaves us, but then I promise I'll go to your phone calls if you want to hold. If not, you can hang up and call back. But calls coming up in the next hour. Dr. Jerome Corsi on the state of the world and his geopolitical gravitas and acumen will be sorely needed coming up in the next segment. Even mainline analysts now are saying that we are on the verge of major war, that the government's funding al-Qaeda. Cy Hirsch has come out and said that clearly Obama is lying and that al-Qaeda was behind the sarin nerve gas attacks. It was WorldNetDaily.com, WND.com, and Infowars.com, along with DrudgeReport.com that picked those up and magnified it. That's DrudgeReport.com that we have to thank for so much of breaking through the electronic Berlin Wall that forced that out. But now Cy Hirsch is saying it. And that's top story earlier today on Yahoo News. It was one of the top 2-3 stories. That's when I saw it this morning. So we're really having an effect here. And we're accurate. We make mistakes sometimes and we correct them. But we try to tell the truth. There's a big difference between us and corporate, mainstream, dominant, state-run media. We're going to talk to Dr. Corsi about where Obama is, where all this is going. The good news that more and more analysts are pointing out that he's operating as a dictator in the Huffington Post and everywhere else. What does he expect to come out of that? That's what's coming up with our guest here in a moment. First off, Christmas is here. The holidays for others as well. And I think it's more important than ever to give the gift of truth and enlightenment and awakening this Christmas and into the new year. And that's why we have a spectrum of products that we've developed and that we carry that I believe are the best out there at InfoWarsStore.com. We have the ProPure water filtration gravity-fed systems that are the lowest price on these systems you'll find anywhere. With promo code WATER20, you get 20% off. That special will end on Wednesday. You still have to the 16th, 17th or so to be guaranteed to get your packages before Christmas. But we suggest everyone, again, go to InfoWarsStore.com. And when you purchase the ProPure stainless steel systems that cut out the glyphosates, the fluoride, all of it, it's the best system. It's what I and my family use. You're also supporting the broadcast. And then we have the proprietary patented nascent iodine made in a special proprietary process where it's truly nascent iodine. Nothing else like it out there. That's why I was looking for stuff to protect my family from the increased radiation from Fukushima and came across this laboratory that's been there for 40 years, producing this for more than a decade that no one even knew about. And I just basically bought it out as a proprietary thing and have now popularized it because I was so blown away by it when I took it privately for 2 months. It's now available, double strength, half the price of the leading competitor, InfoWarsLife.com, to link in directly, or InfoWarsStore.com. And we've rolled out the next 3 products. It took a long time because we will sell no high-quality supplements until it's time. We have the Fluoride Shield itself that has 6 different things in it, including nascent iodine, and it's in a 2-ounce bottle, double the size of the Fluoride Shield, the Survival Shield. The Survival Shield is half the size of the overall fluoride shield. It doesn't just pull out fluoride, a bunch of heavy metals, you name it. It's in a 2-ounce bottle. Then we have the Super Male Vitality that I told you I take a half dose of because it gives me so much energy, and quite frankly, I'm already angry enough. But this is the real raw herbs, not the dried herbs. And let me tell you, people took the nascent iodine and said, man, you're not kidding. This has really changed my clarity, you name it. Just take the Super Male Vitality. We're coming out with a Female Vitality. It's really the same thing, a little bit different, but females can take it too, according to Dr. Group. And just try it for a week. And if you don't feel it, then I'm a monkey's uncle and I'll eat my hat. Because I'm telling you, I only promote and sell what really blows me away. So those new products. And finally, Wake Up America Immune Support Coffee. The favorite coffee I've ever had is this particular medium roast from the high mountains in southern Mexico, from the Chiapas areas. It's even better than Guatemalan. It's my favorite. We have a medium Patriot Blend Wake Up America coffee, very affordably priced. We have a Wake Up America Immune Support with these key mushrooms infused. That's available at InfoWarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139. You can get all of your Christmas shopping done in one fell swoop and support our operation that, believe me, needs your support. It is a real nut to crack to be able to fund a truly independent media operation with media going bankrupt all around us and state-run media collapsing. Okay. And again, I want to thank all of you that are supporters of the broadcast by purchasing the products, by becoming PrisonPlanet.tv nightly news subscribers, by spreading the word about the broadcast, by supporting our local AM and FM affiliates. And we're not just a platform here for free speech and our info. We're a platform for Dr. Ron Paul and Dr. Jerome Corsi and all these scientists and researchers and activists and our authors and lecturers and statesmen and women, stateswomen, to be politically correct, really having a big effect. And again, I want to get Dr. Corsi's take on hearings the last 3 weeks in Congress that we've played clips of and covered here. Then I'm going to show you some of the articles that are here in my stack, where they are now basically admitting that Obama's acting in a totally dictatorial fashion, the likes of which have never been seen, on open borders, on legalizing illegals, on putting the military under NATO, arming al-Qaeda without congressional approval. I can't believe I'm even saying that. It sounds so insane. Implementing Obamacare however he sees fit, creating such big crises, he then offers a solution. Then I want to shift gears geopolitically to the Middle East and Asia, what's happening there, because Dr. Corsi has the connections and the historical understanding. He has a PhD from Harvard in political science, 1972. He's currently senior staff reporter for WorldNet Daily, where he works as an investigative reporter. He's a multi-#1 New York Times bestseller for his political analysis books, and JeromeCorsi.com is just one of his sites, 1776 Nation. And he comes on now to give us the state of the world as things accelerate. And the reason I wanted to get him back on this week, he was the guy with also Joseph Farah of WorldNet Daily, who kept saying last year, and they didn't support McCain against Obama 6 years ago. They said, look, it's worse than we thought. They're going to persecute the entire media. They're going to persecute libertarians, conservatives, constitutionalists. They plan to totally take over. The intel is they will actually totally take over Red Terror style. And I'm like, oh, come on, really, really? And then now, as soon as he got in, it got 50 times worse. So, folks, and they're usually pretty restrained people. So now it's really coming true. So, A, what is Obama doing? What's his plan? How do we stop him? Dr. Corsi, thanks for coming on.
Oh, Alex, always a great pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
You've got the floor. You heard my big intro. I mean, what do we do? Where are we right now? What's happening?
Well, let me start here. I mean, I think to me, the tide is turning in that finally the American people are realizing that Obama lies. I mean, I think it started with Obamacare when Obama said you can keep your health insurance if you like it, period. And then it turns out millions of Americans are going to lose their health insurance, their doctors, their hospital now. And that Obama and the administration knew this and decided to lie because it was the only way to get the legislation passed. Now we come to the most recent revelations. I think the Cy Hirsch article is very important, like you credited, because it gives more mainstream media acceptance to what we've been reporting at WND. You've been reporting at InfoWars, namely that these chemical attacks in Syria were not the Assad government, but they were the rebels launching the chemical attacks. And this was being used as a pretext, a total pretext by the Obama administration to lie the American people into another war in the Middle East, this time supporting, of all people, Al-Qaeda and the Islamic radical mercenary rebels. I mean, it's remarkable who Obama wanted us to support. And let me end this little brief kind of introductory part by saying that it really was incredible that the lies now not only are Obamacare lies and Syria foreign policy lies, but even a lie on the Obama family record, his life story, his birth, his history. When this the uncle from Kenya, who ended up in immigration court in Boston last week, and testified that Obama had spent time in his apartment with him when Obama was at Harvard Law School. And Obama, in 2011, the White House denied that. Obama's running for re-election. He didn't want to have anything to do with this illegal immigrant for 40 years from Kenya and Boston. Well, last week, the White House had to admit that, in fact, it was true after all, that Obama had spent something like 3 weeks living in this Onyango Obama, the Kenyan relative, the uncle, who was illegally in the United States for 40 years. And it was all a lie to say Obama did not know this uncle. So I think what we're really seeing, and this is fundamental in the breakdown, the collapse of the Obama administration in the second term, is that finally the American people are seeing they're being lied to. And, Alex, this is something you've said at InfoWars, we've said at WND since the beginning, since Obama was running for president in 2008, that it's a lie that this fundamental transformation of America is a socialist, a communist, a revolutionary change in America, and Obama will lie his way through getting it done, even such that we don't really know who this guy is. What's his official name? What's his story? What's his background? Who really is Obama in the White House? We can't get the documents even today.
You're absolutely right, and there's a lot of evidence we know who his real father was, and it's just so complex.
It's complex. And I think, where you're heading with this, Alex, is exactly where I think we need to be heading with it. And that is that finally the American people are realizing, and the hearings, as you pointed out, you've reported the hearings, I've attended and reported on the hearings, are shocking. You've got the IRS, going after conservatives and selectively picking out conservative groups and denying tax-exempt status. When, by the way, Obama's other uncle, Malik in Kenya, gets retroactive tax-exempt status, on a one of the tax deferred groups he set up in the United States, a foundation that ends up, sending money to Kenya for an uncle that the Egyptian courts, want to indict for managing money for the Islamic Brotherhood, the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. I mean, his ties and connections that Obama has are finally coming forward, and people are seeing that the Obama administration, with Obamacare, selective enforcement, borders, no enforcement of the borders, with even, gun laws that Obama says, well, I can't get a gun law through Congress, so I'll just sign these 23 executive orders and impose gun restrictions from the White House. All of this is outside the Constitution. The president is not permitted to make up his own laws. And finally, we're getting constitutional. I was shocked to see the constitutional law professor who last week testified to the House Judiciary Committee. That's a very liberal professor, a liberal law school, saying that Obama is the enemy, the evil that our Constitution was designed to prevent, which suggests that, impeachment is the only result and only remedy for Obama's lawless imperial presidency.
That's right. And while you were talking about that for TV viewers, I was showing a whole bunch of news articles admitting he's a dictator. And we can always look back on hindsight on Stalin, Mao, Hitler, all the classic dictators, Pol Pot, Fidel Castro. But most of the time, at the time they're becoming a dictator, people don't know it. But with Obama, it's so clear that even if he leaves office, he now cements the executive branch as a dictatorial, autocratic oligarchy, whatever bureaucrats, whoever on the National Security Council. So really, I've suspended the release of Obama Deception 2 to come out in March now, because I'm making it all about, and it was already about this, but now it's really about, you either impeach Obama or send somebody to jail and totally repudiate him, or this definitely will bring the country down. And that's what Jonathan Turley, the law professor, said. That's what the Cato Institute law professor said. That's what they all said, because it's a fact. It's not like, it's like the Sammy Hagar song about, he says, it's a fact, not my opinion. And that's what this is that this is a fact. This is absolutely on record what's going on here. It's not our opinion. It's like looking out in a pond and it's a yellow duck with a beak and it's got the feet and it's quacking. It's a duck. And if it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, if it flies like a duck, and it's eating algae off the bottom of the lake like a duck, it is a duck. It is a dictator. So what do we do? Because everybody's happy that he's imploding right now. My gut tells me we're in the maximum danger of a false flag, or letting al-Qaeda attack us, or launching a war with China. I mean, God knows what he'll do. What are your inside sources saying, and what does your gut tell you, Dr. Corsi?
Well, I agree with you, Alex. I think it's an extremely dangerous time right now. I mean, look, you've taken a lot of abuse. We've taken a lot of abuse. InfoWars, WND, for reporting the truth. Now, the truth has gone back, to raising fundamental questions here. For instance, let's just take the Middle East. We've both been reporting that this Benghazi is a lie. There's no explanation yet for why Obama, and it had to have been the White House, ordered to stand down from bringing, some military force to bear to save Ambassador Stevens, or try to save these people from the embassy in Tripoli, who were at this CIA compound in Benghazi, from being killed by a mob that we know. Look.
I was talking to a member of my family who's actually been in 28 years. Right. 28 years in the Army. He said in Libya, in Afghanistan, Pakistan, it doesn't matter. When one of their helicopters goes down, they say angel down. Within 5 minutes, the air is swarming. And he said they had air cover all over Libya. It's pure bull. Sorry, go ahead.
And listen, look how lame it is. The hearings I attended, the government was saying they couldn't launch an airstrike from Italy because they didn't know where they were going to refuel these planes. Every military pilot I've ever known would say, forget about the airplanes. We'll ditch them in the Mediterranean. We're going to go save, these brave Americans under fire. That's just such a bogus excuse. And who knew how long this attack was going to last? I mean, and then what we're doing, Alex, is we are continuing to have CIA lies. We're continuing to, support Al-Qaeda. The groups who are controlling Libya today are Al-Qaeda and militant Islamic groups, the same as are in Syria. And the guns they're using are guns that were run illegally by the United States through Chris Stevens into Syria.
That's right. Stay there. I want to look at what you think Obama's going to pull, because that's really important, is looking forward into the future, what these rattlesnakes are up to. Openly trying to basically start wars in other parts of the planet with countries like China that we've built up. I'm certainly not romanticizing the communist Chinese. Dr. Corsi pivoting over to the pivot in Asia and the devaluation of the dollar and just everything that's happening. And the QE Unlimited, even Federal Reserve regional heads apologizing, saying this is the greatest transfer of wealth ever. This will destroy us. I already see incredible inflation, but the media says, oh, no, everything's fine. What is front and center on your radar? What do you expect the Obama-nots to do as he collapses? And as even the Huffington Post says he's dictatorial on this Asia trade deal, what do you expect them to do? Just let their minion politically be pilloried? Or will they stage something?
Oh, they'll stage something. I don't think there's no doubt they're going to stage something. Are you getting your feedback there? Or am I coming through okay?
You sound pretty good, a little bit distorted, but go ahead, Doctor.
Look, what's ready to happen, the next, I think, false flag or crisis on the horizon is the bursting of the stock bubble. This is another stock market bubble, just like the dot-com bubble burst. You've got, then you had the housing market bubble burst, both manufactured bubbles, both engineered by the private bankers, the central bank, which should be, examined, done away with, the Federal Reserve. A Federal Reserve right now buying our own debt, which is preposterous, in this QE, whatever number it is, 3, 4, we're going to have a bursting of the stock market bubble. That's imminent. It's right on the horizon. It can happen at any time. And when that bursts, there'll be a financial crisis that will be used to get more control. I suspect, Alex, it'll be staged to coincide with ramming this trans-Pacific and transatlantic partnership through Congress, which will give really an end to any sovereignty, over economic dealings, followed by a crisis saying, well, we're going to have to do something with the federal debt, and maybe we need to collapse the dollar and move into international monetary control. The Bank of International Settlements has been working to create an alternative to the dollar as a standard of world trade. I'm going to write an article we should have. I'll give you a preview. Should appear probably tomorrow. We just tracked with Iran that, key to Iran getting these lifting of sanctions was Iran agreeing to come back under international banking control. Iran paid off debts to the World Bank. They're coming in line with their central bank. They're stopping to oppose, the world order, international private bankers on the settlement of oil in dollars or whatever international currency the world bankers decide. Iran succumbed to the international bankers. And again, I think the next crisis that we're going to face, there'll be a loss of freedom opportunity. Forget about Obamacare when everybody is going bankrupt because the dollar tanks, the stock market bubble bursts. That's, I think, the kind of major crisis that's in the works for Obama to put back on the agenda a power grab and take off the agenda impeachment, which is building.
Well said, Dr. Corsi. I'm just stunned hearing you break it down so well. That's exactly what they're doing. They're preparing the war to distract everybody. They're preparing a financial meltdown to distract everyone, and then always just grab more power out of the crises that they help create or exacerbate. Dr. Corsi, thank you so much, sir. All right, in this short little segment, Dr. Corsi's hung on with us so I can ask a few more questions, and then your calls are coming up. Travis, Mark, Michael, Truth Raider, Job. In fact, Joe's after Travis. He'll be second. I'm going to get right to you, and then into all the other news I haven't covered at the bottom of the next hour, and some special reports we're going to premiere here as well. There's so much to go over. But Dr. Corsi, just in closing, how are things going for the geopolitical establishment? I know there's not one spider at the center of a web. There's a lot of different spiders, but they all basically follow the same cultures of centralization and cronyism, whether it's socialism or fascism. But now it's so naked, just in the larger gestalt sociologically, because I know that's what you've studied at Harvard and also economics, and then worked at the, with the State Department on things geopolitically. Where would you say historians will look back and say we are now? And can we avert the cornucopia of Hydra heads that are coming right at us?
Well, I think you're right, Alex. This is probably historically one of the most critical and dangerous periods of time in human history. It's the New World Order is running nakedly to the finish line. You got the NSA listening to every conversation. I mean, the Big Brother control is right around the corner. And, finally, Obama's getting exposed as a fraud. His personal history is a fraud. His lying about Obamacare, the lying about Benghazi and Syria, all this is, the American people are catching on. So the need to have a crisis, the need to have the bubble bursting in the stock market, the need to have a new war and right in the wings, ready to start at any time. Will Israel attack Iran? I mean, some new tinderbox incident is going to have to occur because the New World Order crowd, as you've reported, as we've reported, wants to put the final pieces in place. And at that point, our freedom is gone. And the only things really standing between them, Alex, what you're doing to tell the truth at InfoWars, what we're doing at WorldNet Daily, are having such an impact. People are listening. They're waking up. They're finally realizing they've been lied to.
And by the way, we're not on power trips. We wish there were more people. That's why we're glad that DrudgeReport.com's there. Glenn Beck's doing a good job overall.
Cy Hirsch, let's welcome.
Cy Hirsch, exactly. We want more people. We want to win. We don't want to go into USSR Part 2. I mean, isn't it creepy, though? People think, what's it like to be InfoWars? Or what's it like to be WorldNet Daily? What's it like to be a New York Times bestseller politically? I'll tell you, and I bet you're going to agree, it's scary, isn't it, Dr. Corsi?
It's scary, and you have to take a lot of abuse because you're going to be called every kind of name until people finally realize that you've been telling the truth all the time. And Alex, we've got the government out there with a huge CIA lying disinformation machine. We'll do everything possible to discredit InfoWars, discredit me, discredit WND, because they don't want the American people hearing the truth. And we're telling the truth. We're saying, look at Benghazi. We could have brought military force here to help these brave Americans being killed, and Ambassador Stevens and the others who were killed in the compound. We're saying, look at the truth. We don't want to fight for Al-Qaeda in Syria. We don't want to fight for Al-Qaeda in Libya. Let's look at the reality here. And the banksters are around the corner, ready to pounce as soon as the stock market bubble bursts, saying, okay, the dollar's bankrupt. Now here we're coming with the new euro, the new International Monetary Fund solution, the new Trans-Pacific Transatlantic Partnership. These are not saviors. These are the steps of slavery, which the New World Order wants to. And
as David Rockefeller always said in Kissinger, they need the right global crisis, and the nations will beg for the New World Order. All right, WND.com. You can find his books and everything right there. Amazing researcher. Thank you, Dr. Corsi, for the time.
Great pleasure, Alex. Great pleasure to be with you again. Thank you.
Thank you. It's always a great way to start the week having Dr. Jerome Corsi on. Your phone calls are minutes away. Thanks for holding. Infowars.com. Europe, with Power Boss, warns of energy blackouts next winter due to closures of coal-fired plants in the UK. Also here in the U.S., this is the absolute deindustrialization. Quarter of Europeans face poverty. Eurostats. Edward Snowden to give evidence to EU Parliament, says member of European Parliament. By the way, we've, of course, had another former NSA individual that's testified to the Parliament in the EU, And that, of course, is Wayne Madsen. Probably time to get him back on with an update, because everything he's been publishing and saying has now been confirmed. Because, I mean, obviously he's an insider, but it's just amazing how they lie and lie and lie while they're doing this. Remember, a federal judge said that a few months ago, got to pull that quote back up, that if the information on the NSA was known when he sealed a bunch of it in a lawsuit, it would, quote, bring down the government. Yeah, but we already know they're persecuting the press with it, the Congress with it, the members of Hollywood with it. They are using it for corporate deals. They are spying on each other's wives and children and lovers and business partners and enemies. I mean, it is a free-for-all of criminal activity with the big telecoms all tied into it, ladies and gentlemen. And, I mean, it is just amazing how criminal and illegal this is. It is not to fight terrorists or keep you safe, folks. They run almost all the terror attacks. And even if some of them are real, which some of them are, I'd rather face the danger of some loon than have a big, giant, overarching government over me that will obviously be 1 trillion times more dangerous. It's that simple. And we got other news here. The judge, federal judge, and state judges have been ruling that you have no right to your public or private pensions. If they've been, tied into derivatives or other things. And now budget negotiators looking at military pensions. And this report is just incredibly, incredibly important from Politico. And I told you, folks, they're going to take your pensions. But they will prop up the too big to fail. The plan is to bankrupt you, and they want to have a civil war. And I laugh at this because all you that work for the system that think you prop it up and you get your pension, whether it's a private investor in the stock market, and they see that as their pension, who goes along with the system, oh, do anything, bail out foreign banks to prop up the stock market. And then all you're doing is falling into the trap, like Dr. Corsi just said, where they're going to implode the world economy in a new crisis, attenuating this continued recession into depression. But they will mark it with a new crisis and then demand even more power during that. And the average yuppie will line up to the very people, public and private investments, and they will steal them, part of them, in the name of securing what you've got, and then keep inflating the stock market with devalued world currencies, mainly the dollar. The stock market isn't really double what it was 5 years ago, 6 years ago. The stock market, ladies and gentlemen, is paid for in a giant bubble of hyperinflated currencies. But the banks and the big corporations don't ever let that money come out in pay raises, so there hasn't been as bad an inflation in the general economy, only in the speculative economy. They try to divide them. But there's no way short term they can even continue to keep them divided, and they're leaching back and forth into each other. You understand that? We get a depression, and these guys get a bunch of free money, but then it devalues it, so they just dump trillions more faster and faster for whatever it's been devalued. They just give themselves that much more. And then meanwhile, it trickles down the inflation to us. It's amazing. Trickle-down inflation. That's what they've invented. Amazingly rigged economy with these computers, folks. The ultimate screw job. And you just got to point out they're above the law. It's unconstitutional. Unjust weights and measures is the bedrock of slavery. J.P. Morgan's exempt from laws, exempt from selling derivative counterfeiting. When it goes upside down, we bail it out. If I did anything like that, I'd be sitting under the federal prison. If you did that, you'd be, Bernie Madoff testified, what I did is standard, and it's true. But he did it as his own little operation, and he screwed elites. You could get 15, 20% with a Goldman Sachs investment. You could get 30% with Bernie Madoff. Bernie Madoff got greedy. That was his crime, is he screwed over a bunch of the elitist, wives and cousins and people. And so, because it was so obvious, they sent him to jail. That's it. Let's go ahead and talk to Travis. Travis called in earlier, but I cut him off because we went to break. And the breaks are set in stone unless I skip them, satellites, and for stations out there. So I wanted to come back to him. He wanted to talk about how we are enrolled globally, the population, and is signed on to the national debt through our birth certificates and Social Security numbers. And I used to hear this 20 years ago and didn't believe it. And there's a lot of stuff attached to it that's patriot mythology. But the bedrock core that they do have us signed into the system as political fictions, which they then, under a corporate fraud, get us to waive our rights, is absolutely true. So what was your point, sir? Thanks for holding.
Yeah, Alex, I just wanted to get through my point. I only got a few minutes here on my track phone left. So anyhow, I just wanted to... I'm wondering why nobody files a civil lawsuit for ID theft from these guys. They're hiding behind titles of nobility. All the doctors, the hospitals, and the government are accessories to, or accomplices to the crime. And the ones that are holding the documents, the birth certificates, are actually the ID thieves. I mean, it couldn't be too much to at least file the suits civilly against them somehow. I don't know how to go about it. I'm a foreman, and I'd do it myself.
No, I hear you, and I appreciate your call. It is an interesting idea, and even if you don't win the lawsuit, it would bring attention to this whole legal fiction. It's a very complex issue. Let's go ahead and talk to Joe in California. Welcome.
Hello?
Hey, buddy.
Oh, please. Oh, yeah. Oh, hello, Alex. Hey, I just wanted to, first off, I'd like to say I appreciate all your hard work and efforts that you and your crew go through to provide the members of Prison Planet TV and the rest of the world with your information.
Thank you, sir, for your support.
Yes, sir. Also, I'd just like to, say, if American military forces are fighting for freedom and liberating other countries around the world, and if that were true, why haven't we used a copy machine to print out and install the U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights instead of installing brutal dictatorial regimes?
Well, no, that's it, because corrupt interests have seized control of our military. The CIA was founded out of skull and bones from the beginning to overthrow the United States and make us part of basically a British Empire model. Not the British Empire itself, but that same model taking over the Cecil Rhodes system on record. And even mainline historians admit that. And so our government works to install dictators, Al-Qaeda, corrupt over countries, because that's what the corporations want. And Kennedy didn't want to go along with that. I don't romanticize Kennedy, but he was trying to reverse that. At first, he was all into it, thinking it was good. But within a year, he went, man, you guys are really evil. I'm not going to blow up U.S. military bases and kill people to start a war with the Soviet Union. You're fired. And so they killed him. And it just comes down to the worst of the worst are running things. I mean, Dr. Corsi, who's worked at all different levels of government as a consultant, says our media is a CIA machine that is lying to everybody, but because they are. I mean, this is beyond, some right-winger like Dr. Corsi and then a left-winger like Cy Hirsch. We're not left-wingers or right-wingers. We are sane people that don't want to live in a dictatorship where all the prosperity goes out the window for our children and grandchildren. I mean, folks, this country's always had corruption problems, but I mean, things are so sophisticated now that corruption can hide behind the sophistication. But if you actually just pull back, it's all right there. Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, yes, exactly. Could I do a little plug?
Sure.
I just would like to say I've been a Prison Planet TV member since 2008. I use the Tangy Tangerine 2.0, the Pollen Burst, and the Nascent Iodine, all wonderful products. I buy stuff from you all the time. Keep up the great work. I appreciate it. And one last thing, I would just like to encourage all people that are out there that are going to turn in their guns to do it barrel first as soon as the ammo runs out. Thank you very much, sir.
God bless you, brother. Well, we better fight in the info war. We better fight politically long before it gets to the shooting war. But, yeah, we don't have any choice if they try to confiscate the guns en masse. Instead, they're doing it real secretly, creeping around, confiscating gun owners' guns, misinterpreting laws to take them, not reissuing FOID cards in places like Illinois. I mean, there is a quiet war against gun owners and a very hot war in the info war in the media, brainwashing the public, as the Attorney General said, and demonizing civilian ownership of firearms. As this colonel came out and said in Esquire magazine, so that they can try to, basically have a monopoly of force for the government. And that is just so incredibly despicable. And by the way, Paul Watson has now updated his article from last week that went so viral, where there are two Colonel Robert Batemans who both do similar work in contracting, and some of the sites we went off of got some of their identities scrambled, so there was some confusion. You need to go to Infowars.com or to the bottom of the Esquire article about gun confiscation to contact the real Colonel Bowman, who's in England. And one of my Bateman, Colonel Robert Bateman. So, again, will you guys reprint me the updated article so I have that, because I want to update that proper correction here with Colonel Robert Bateman and just get that clear for folks. All right, more of your phone calls straight ahead. Truth Raider, Michael, Mark, Mike, and others. Your calls are coming up. 800-259-9231. Wells and Missing Nukes. Yeah, I heard about that Saturday show. I didn't get a chance to hear it. Oh, I should be plugging John B. Wells. That's confirmed, right, Nico? He's in studio with us on Wednesdays and a co-host the second half of the show for an hour and a half and be on the nightly news with us. And then I'm going to take him out to get some dinner or something. Great guy. Just what I thought he'd be like meeting him in person. Host of the Saturday Coast to Coast AM. The rest of that great crew, George Norrie and others. But let's go to Truth Raider in Oregon. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Season's greetings, AJ.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, maybe you ought to go by Alexander Emmerich only to get rid of that confusion about who's the real Alex Jones.
You know, I know it just sounds kind of pretentious. I always thought to say, I am Alexander Emmerich Jones. And then meanwhile, Wikipedia spells it wrong. So now everyone asks, you know, well, why do you spell it this way? And I'm like, well, that's actually how it's spelled. But they've got a wrong spelling of Emmerich up there, too. But, hey, whatever, all's fair in love and war. So I should announce myself as Alexander Jones. Alexander does roll off the tongue better with everybody calling themselves Alex. Fine, I'm Alexander from now on. And coming to you live from Austin, Texas, Alexander Jones. Or I can say Alexander E. Jones. And just literally wear like royal robes and everything. How's that sound?
Yes, sir. It sounds real aristocratic to me.
I'm sorry, go ahead. We can how about we just shorten it to Al Jones, huh? Sorry, go ahead.
All that would work there.
How about Bob Jones?
Yeah. Well,
being sarcastic.
Throw him off a little bit there.
Rob Dew hates being called Bob. So anyway, so go ahead.
The 30 little-known facts about America on YouTube, Alex, very important. I think it is the root cause of all this tyranny. It's how they get away with it.
All right, tell me.
You need to look it up, and the InfoWarriors need to look it up on YouTube.
Say that again. What's the name?
The 30 little-known facts about America.
Okay, anything else?
Well, it has all the references in here. All the references to it.
Well, tell us some of these little jewels.
Okay. Let's look at this one. Number 17. You cannot use the U.S. Constitution to defend yourself because you are not a party to it. The reference is Paddleford, Fay, and Company versus the mayor and alderman of the city of Savannah, Georgia.
No, I agree. In fact, I've never seen this video before, but this is the kind of stuff we should take and then, of course, give a hat tip to for the research and then add actual, documents to it. They have some of that up there, but actually add images to it because what I saw so far was true. Let's go back to number 1 here. Let's go back to number 1. The IRS is not a U.S. government agency. It is an agency of the IMF. It goes on, diversified metal products versus IRS, and it's got the whole law. Yeah, this is powerful. This is powerful stuff. Yep, Black's Law Dictionary. Go ahead.
Yes. Well, I could read on and on and on, but I don't think you have the time to go through all of them. It was originally a 48-item list, and they narrowed it down to 30. So I looked this up, and it goes in conjunction with researchers like the legendary Jordan Maxwell, for example. He explains it in an esoteric fashion.
By the way, Jordan says he'll come on, but I've got to call him. And I literally have been so busy finishing the new studio and the new TV launch next week and everything else that I got to call Jordan today. In fact, I'm just at the end of the show, I got to call this colonel, both the colonels, the one that we confuse and then the real one. Then I got to call a media company that keeps calling me, and then I've got to call Jordan Maxwell so that I can get him to come on the show. But I do want to get Jordan on. Very interesting. Anything else?
Well, yeah, for laughs, for just what it's worth, On YouTube, they also have this guy that lampoons you in this Alex Jones 5-hour rant. All you need to know about Alex Jones.
Well, it sounds good.
Funny.
I'm sure it is funny. I don't have time to watch the detractors. I appreciate your call just because, you know, what is the point? I mean, I already know my problems, and I already know how people twist things I do or outright lie about me. I mean, you know, one of my favorites is I work for ABC News. They just say that's a fact. Because out of all the satellites we've leased, one of them like 10 years ago for a couple of years was owned by a division of ABC. You could call up and lease a feed on it. And then they just say, no, there's the proof. You know, I work for ABC. And, you know, it's not about what do I say, what do I do, what do I stand for. It's like saying I work for the Vatican. And that's all because I don't attack Catholics that I work for the Vatican. I mean, it's not true, but so what? Or that I work for Israel when I am critical of a lot of things Israel do. It's the way nobody's one-up themselves and make themselves feel big. Like cop kills unarmed man after sarcastic remark. That just broke at Infowars.com. Job numbers cooked to keep quantitative easing scam rolling. China-Japan conflict could lead to World War III, warns former UN ambassador. I think that's pretty important. Corporate media ignores evidence. CIA's al-Nusra responsible for Syrian Sharon attack. Japanese media fears war with China next year. South Korea unveils its own air defense zone overlapping China and Japan's. And that's just some of the articles up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. First off, we're already carrying a very well-made high-def dash cam system that goes over your rearview mirror and looks like a rearview mirror. And it's pretty much a hidden camera. It's not technically, but you can hit a button and then see a high-def screen. It shoots high-def video. You can turn it around, do things. It sells for $130, $150. We sell it for $99 with an 8-gigabyte memory stick, which no one does. I challenge you to find it at a lower price. It's on InfoWarsStore.com. And again, you notice we don't really have a lot of sponsors. I could have sponsors, and we may down the road, but it's just messing with them and fiddling with it and making sure they're the best, and everything is just such a hassle. I'd rather just fund ourselves with subscriptions to PrisonPlanet.tv. You get 5 months free right now. Each membership for $5.95 a month. Well, it's even less when you sign up for a year. It's really 11 memberships. 11 people can use the same username passcode simultaneously. Stuff like that. We fund ourselves with high-quality services and products the old-fashioned free market way. Being competitive, trying to have high quality. And things get even more and more high quality down the line. You know, we even sell some cheap pen lights. Well, not really cheap, but, and, you know, cheap umbrellas and things. And I've said, let's just get rid of the umbrellas and stuff, because that's, even though it's really inexpensive, some people like it, I don't want to even carry an expensive swag. You know, we put free bumper stickers and citizen rule books in all the orders. But, you know, the bottom line here is that when you purchase from us, you fund the operation and the writers and reporters and crew and everything we're doing here. It's very expensive. The equipment, the lawyers, the accountants. We try to do everything completely above board here. And we've succeeded by the grace of God. Playing ball with the whole corrupt system because we're a major target. You pick your battles. So, again, thank you so much for your support. InfoWarsStore.com. Introducing, so we have that dash cam that hangs on the light. Introducing, ladies and gentlemen, we went out and found the highest quality. This sells for $150, $130 discounted. The devilish Amazon that sells stuff for almost no profit to dominate the market. We match their price on the same product by a different name. This is branded to Infowars.com. It's the Infowars dash cam. It says Infowars on the top of the cam. It's high def. Again, it's regularly between $129 and $149. We have it for $99.96. You can order a second dash cam for only $89.95, which no one does, not even Amazon. Great citizen journalist tool, protects you from fraudulent insurance claims, never stops recording with retro looping, time and date stamp for validity, 2.4-inch LCD screen, rotates 270 degrees, anti-theft motion sensor, so you can turn it on, see when people come around. You can videotape police out of control or document things, wrecks, wildlife, infrared LEDs for night recording, playback on units, display, TV, or computer. All accessories include 4 gigabyte memory card. The other unit has 8. Are included. Nothing more to buy. Contents include dash cam data recorder, USB cable, AV cable, memory card, car mount. This is fully juicily loaded, so that you have the InfoWars dash cam, ladies and gentlemen, all in one little box. This is $130 at Pet Boys and all the rest of them. Okay, this is it from the big company. And we have ordered a massive load of these to get a lower price so we can challenge Amazon, okay? So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Free market all the way, hammer down. 2 different high-quality dash cams, one of them branded InfoWars. This is probably the unit I would get. This is even more versatile than the other, though the other one is pretty much camouflaged. Now, I suggest you give these as gifts and get one for yourself and support InfoWars and everything we do at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139. And lastly, folks, the reason I came out with this proprietary Nation iodine, the reason I did this was because of the fact that I was researching what to protect my thyroid, my family's thyroid with, and the top guys I talked to said the regular iodine, most of it's not really Nation, and it makes you sick, and it eats holes in the lining of your stomach. And you know, there's some other good brands of it out there, but this is the brand you should go with. That they weren't even selling any of it. So I got the exclusive on it. We have it. It's available at InfoWarsLife.com. It is the Survival Shield. We now have the Fluoride Shield that also has the Nation iodine in it, but 5 other key compounds that work together, and the Super Male Vitality. But look at this headline. Record outdoor radiation level that can kill in 20 minutes detected at Fukushima. RT. This is the news of Australia. 3 years on from Japan's nuclear emergency, the fallout continues to spread. Fox News reports record huge wave of junk and garbage, almost 3 years to get here, will hit sometime in January, February, or March. So, and it's certainly not a silver bullet. Moving to the Southern Hemisphere, where the radiation levels are really more than 2 times lower, would be the ticket. But this is the bare minimum, and it supports us as well. InfoWarsLife.com, ladies and gentlemen. All right, folks, let's go back to your phone calls as quickly as possible. Michael in Michigan, and then Mark, and then Mike, and then Martin, and then that'll be it with Martin in Ireland, because I've got to get to this other news. Michael, thanks for holding, brother. You're on the air.
Hey, Alex, how are you?
Doing all right, brother.
All right, man. I'm calling in because I'm pretty concerned. I'm a 20-year-old college student, and what you were saying earlier about the state-run media, it's pretty much at this age that you can see the effects of what this has done to people and how this has gotten into their mind. And just walking around campus here, you can see everybody is just so, everybody's the same. I mean, guys all wear pastels. They've basically been mentally neutered. The girls all wear the same clothes, iPhones, yoga pants, and their Ugg boots. And it's just kind of sad to see that these people have figured out how to get into our mind. And there's really like a fight for our souls going on.
Well, I need to have you host the show because you just said it all succinctly. When you look at how people were in the past, and all the scientific numbers show this, it's not just observation, the brain waves are lower. The IQ is physically lower. People think it's cool to shuffle around and not care and just be totally decadent lambs to the slaughter, and then make fun of those of us that are trying to fix things, and they think it's their individualism to be slaves because the system has created a decadent artificial system to take over. But as soon as they're done taking over, all these snot-noses are going to be singing to a different tune. And I know what you're talking about. I mean, we call them trendies here, and they are really, really entitled, stupid, vapid, shallow, and every generation says this, but I mean, I like every generation's music. I can hear old country folk songs replayed and love them. I can listen to classical music and love it. I can listen to old song music, they found from Chinese music 1,000 years old and love it. I can hear Arabic music that's thousands of years old and love it. I can hear Jewish music that's thousands of years old and love it. I can hear basically anything and love it. And I listen to the new stuff. It's mindless, the same beat. It's because it's what a cockroach would listen to. And there's some good new music as well. But if that's just many a philosopher said, you will know a culture by its music. And the vapid emptiness of it and the one-dimensionalness of it. And, I shouldn't have done it, but I wanted to play old video games because my kids love them. And they want me to buy one of those expensive big tabletop consoles for the garage that we're turning into a fun studio or whatever. We never use the garage anyways. Why not put pool tables and stuff out there? To make a long story short, the other night I was going to pick up food at a restaurant for my parents, and right across the street, well, in the same shopping center, I was bringing food to my parents and my kids that were staying over there. We were over there watching movies with them, having a Christmas thing, and I saw this video game place that has used video games. And I said, I bet they've got plug and play. And I walked in there, and there were these trendies in there, and there was the one boss in there kind of lording over the two people under him who were groveling to him. It was like they were little monkeys sitting in his lap or something, picking bugs off of him. And I was like, yeah, I want just some plug and play. And he goes, I just want old-fashioned stuff. He goes, well, it's not cool like the new stuff. And I went, well, man, that's too real for me. That engrosses you. I want to have a little bit of fun. Let them play some retro games, like Centipede or whatever, or Atari chess. And the guy just was like, oh, really? Oh, yeah. Oh, I know so much about games, and you don't. And oh, that's stupid, and that's why it doesn't look that good. And I went up and bought one of the $10, used plug-and-play games. It had like 10 games on it. And I was just like, man, it's also that trendies, and I don't just mean they dress trendy, because there's different types of trendies. There's folks that wear trendy outfits just because they're into style or whatever. But they always mess with you and are also threatened almost at an instinctive level by anyone who they can tell isn't on their mindless wavelength. So they're also real animalistic and real aggressive and mean. And I think that's what's so disgusting about them, because they really know they're losers and are headed over the edge. I mean, is that what you're trying to get at?
Almost. I think that rather than trying to make them aggressive, the point is, like you said, to make them docile. And they will rebel against anybody who threatens their ego, who says that what you're doing isn't how you should be acting. I mean, it's lunacy. And
no, exactly. They have cognitive dissonance to defend their enslavement, and they'll tell you they're free, and they buy into whatever the delusional template is. They're on a power trip. They think they're a superstar. Go ahead. It's narcissism.
The sad thing is, you once gave an analogy about the frog in the boiling pot. And I've got an even better one. One of my karate senseis told me this, that in Antarctica, they would hunt wolves by dipping a knife in blade and then dipping the blade in blood and then sticking that in the ground. And a wolf will come by and he'll start licking that blood off the blade, cuts his tongue, keeps licking it, doesn't know the difference. And it's this slow, just like mental rape that they've done to people that is what's killing us, because by the time you're 20, your psyche is already so screwed up that you don't know what's going on.
Exactly, and then you defend your scarred brain as your identity. You adapt to the enslavement and then attack those, and that's what an elitist told me off record. Told the story 100 times, this major bankhead. He said, you don't understand, people just don't adapt like in the Marines, adapt, improvise, overcome. They don't just adapt in good ways. If we do it right, they'll adapt to whatever we want. And humanity will adapt into whatever we want. And he literally smiled at me like the devil, filled with knowledge. He knew more than I did, was probably smarter than I was, but had an evil soul, and had made a decision. And I know it's easy to disdain the public, to see them as dumb, to not want to build them up, not want to believe in them. But I just can't do it. God bless you. Oh, final comment, go ahead.
Yeah, you know, a lot of the stuff you say, some people may find far-fetched, and I found myself thinking that way until when I saw one of those beautiful MRAP vehicles driving down campus, and I was just like, holy crap, this is real.
Oh, yeah, so they got the sound cannon waiting for you?
Well, let's hope not.
That's what they're rolling out nationwide. Thank you so much. In fact, here's 2 of the articles, then I'll go back to your calls and more. Here's LA Times, Detroit ruling opens door to pension cuts across the nation. That's LA Times. Told you that was coming over and over again. They actually changed the rules in 2005 to take public and private pensions. You didn't know that. You might want to check into it if you're a new listener. Here's another one. Budget negotiations looking at military pensions. Politico. And, of course, the truth is, folks, if they got rid of the derivatives and the Federal Reserve and signing on to all the empire, you could actually keep your bloated pensions. A lot of the pensions are too big, and it makes dependency. But if you're going to give 40-something trillion to foreign banks that they put in a black hole, you can pay the military pensions. But the military pensions, I've looked at them, are nothing compared to a lot of these city managers. I mean, I've seen city managers in small towns in California that make $800,000 a year because they're the manager. Folks, that's $800,000 a year. In one town, they had like 40,000 people in the town. And they're paid that because they're swindlers. You see, they take 70+% of the money and invest it in stocks and bonds that don't even go into the budget, and that is literally stolen. That's why a city manager, and I've had city managers in studio before on separate issues, they bring this up and they turn red and laugh and go, I'm not talking about it. Because it's all a big criminal conspiracy. Just like the NSA, just like the police with warrantless checkpoints. They're all just doing it. That's what tyranny is a revolution of crime, of officially sponsored crime. Let's go to Mark in Oregon. You want to talk about John B. Wells and the missing nukes Saturday interview he did. Go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, Alex. Go back to a weekend before last on the Coast to Coast show, and John B. Wells interviewed a very interesting gentleman named Dr. James Garrow. Have you heard of him?
Yes, Garrow's been on, and I respect him, and I do believe he was a CIA operative, like he says. It's just that I can't confirm all the stuff he's saying. I know some of it's true, and so I'm glad Wells had him on. It's just that I have not interviewed Garrow on his missing nuke story because, you know, I know our story's accurate. I know our story's real. I know we had this high-level source with the big freak out at Dyess Air Force Base, and they didn't know where they were going, or they knew generally where they were going, but they didn't know what was going on, just that it was wrong, and that they weren't supposed to be there. The nukes weren't supposed to even be there. And then we never knew. And that's how a story is, where you don't know all the details. And I went out on a limb to even report that. And then Garrow, I didn't hear the interview, but I heard tell us what he talked about when we come back. People should go to coasttocoastam.com and hear it. I actually listen to Wells a lot of Saturdays, but I was with family. Actually, I came back Saturday night. I was with my parents. I just come back into town Saturday from the funeral out in East Texas, so that's why I missed it. But stay there, Mark. We'll come back to you. Then Mike and Martin. Called COP. It was done in front of a whole bunch of witnesses. They pulled over the guy that was an honor student, the valedictorian in high school, and an honor student at the Christian college. And I saw this over the weekend and just knew this was what would happen. And the cop came over to him, was talking to him, and was reportedly being bossy. So the guy made a joke, an offhanded remark, and he just said, get down on your hands and knees, and then pulled the gun. And he said, oh, you're going to shoot me, and then shot him, unloading the firearm at him. And so this is happening more and more, folks, where they've trained these cops just kill anybody that doesn't do what you want. That's what the Austin police chief said on 590 a few months ago. I heard him. He said, do whatever order you're told, even if it's not right. Well, the Constitution doesn't say that, but this guy didn't even have a chance to be beaten in the head. So he's dead now. Hey, big victory. Cop kills unarmed man after sarcastic remark. Campus police officer in San Antonio has been placed on paid leave following the shooting of an unarmed student who directed a sarcastic remark towards the king. The incident took place Friday morning during a traffic stop close to the University of Incarnate Word. KSAT News reports 23-year-old honor student Robert Cameron Redis, is that how you pronounce that? Redis was shot to death by Corporal Christopher Carter at around 2 a.m. After pulling Reedus over for speeding, according to the police report, witnesses said the officer emptied his gun into the student without warning, and despite the fact that he was unarmed. I didn't hear him say anything like, get down on your hands and knees, you know. See, I'd misread that. I didn't hear him say anything. He just started shooting. One writes, he emptied his gun into him. Boom, 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 6 shots, 5 or 6. Another witness says that the man who was shot and killed, last words were, "Oh, you're going to shoot me," said to Carter in a sarcastic, offhanded tone. And he heard the cop keep saying, "Stop resisting, stop resisting." And everybody described him as the nicest guy. Well, don't worry, he's been executed. And that's good, a good message, everybody. You do what you're told, and you worship government, or you die. I want to go to Ireland here in a moment, talk to Martin and Mike. But Mark in Oregon, finish up with what you heard on Coast to Coast AM.
Yes, Alex, Dr. Garrow and you, by the way, I think you have some of the same high-level sources because this information really fills in the details of what you first reported back in earlier October.
No, I know, and I don't doubt Garrow. I want to be clear. Just I know my sources, so I will go with it. I don't know his sources, so I won't go with it. But go ahead.
Right.
Tell us what he said.
Maybe take 60 seconds. I'll hit them on the high points best I can for you. The actual reason for the general's removal, Kerry and Giardino, who were in charge of the nuclear program in this country, that was actually due to the fact that they refused to follow orders issued from the White House. I want to really stress that from the White House, as Obama has the launch codes. He's the only one that could have ordered those missiles moved to launch over America in order to destroy the country's electrical grid, a nuclear EMP weapon. Now, there were 3 nuclear devices taken from Dyess Air Force Base in Texas, according to Dr. Garrow. When the 3 nuclear warheads were ordered by Obama to be transported from mothball storage at Dyess, the order specified that 1 bomb was to be outfitted with an EMP collar. The collars actually join and hold the missile and the warhead together. The collars are tailored for an intended EMP effect.
Well, listen, I know about that, but I mean, here's my issue, and I'm not doubting he thinks this or whatever. My issue is if they were going to do that, they would do something like have a private drone carry it and detonate it. I don't think they'd order top military officers to attack the U.S. with an EMP. They'd use a cover of a drill or something and then insert a real one in it or something and say Al-Qaeda did it. But I'll probably have to get Garrow on, okay? I mean, this is out now. And you know what? Let's just get him on tomorrow. Let's just hear what he has to say. I'm coming back in overdrive. Martin in Ireland, Mike in Detroit. All I have time for. Sorry, Charlie. And Nomo. Nightly News is tonight, 7 o'clock. PrisonPlanet.tv. Ireland, north and south. I want to check out the beautiful country. I got a wanderlust, folks, but I just have to be tied down fighting the New World Order, believe me. Let's talk to Martin in Ireland. Martin, go ahead.
Hello, Alex.
Hey, buddy.
Alex, I just want to ask you about who these people are, these globalists that you talk about.
Well, they follow a mindset of technocracy and enslaving humanity and using systems of deceit and control. And so they basically inhabit every race, color, creed, religion, organization. They are followers of evil.
And how long have they been around?
Since the beginning of time, there have been people that have an evil streak.
Right. So with that in mind, right?
Yes, sir.
These same people are the same people that called Washington a terrorist.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
They called Washington a terrorist. And these are the same people that have labelled Nelson Mandela a terrorist. Now, do you not see that anybody that opposes oppression is a terrorist?
Well, I mean, I've already said that Nelson Mandela had a lot of courage, but he did target civilians, and George Washington didn't do that, and so that's the difference. But I hear you, and at the same time, I just don't agree with what Mandela wanted to replace one evil with another. Just because I don't like what he tried to replace things with doesn't mean I endorse what he was fighting against. You know, it's kind of like if there's 2 restaurants and I go, I don't want to go in that one or that one. It's like, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but do you not see the big picture here? The big picture here is that these people that you talk about, right, have been controlling people's minds forever and a day, right? It goes back to the Native Indians. Washington himself gives the order to eradicate the Indians, right? So there you go, is racism. Right?
Yeah, but I mean, it's a little bit more than that. I mean, by the 1860s, it was eradicate the natives, and the British did also try to give them smallpox and stuff before that in the 1700s. But if you want to be technical, a lot of the Indian wars were lost early on in the East, and then in the Midwest. That's why the eradication program came in, because it wasn't like in the movies where it's a native woman and the degenerate redneck, shoots her for no reason. And I'm not endorsing what happened either. It was both sides were killing each other. And if you wouldn't join a group of natives to go on the warpath against their enemy, they would kill you. Do you understand that?
Yeah, but do you understand that back then it was racism? Then in the 60s or earlier in the United States, it was communism. And now it's terrorism. All these words and all these things have all been used to scaremonger people.
Man, I got to tell you, communists have killed more people than anybody else. I mean, Mao, the Chinese government says killed 84 million. The CIA says 66 or something. I mean, communism is just the most horrible slavery in the world. And I'm not saying that they didn't use the fight against communism to take liberties as well. I'm not disagreeing with you. I mean, really, what do? We got about 20 seconds left.
I know what oppression's about. Right, and see, these same people that you're talking about are the same people that oppressed us in Ireland. These same people that told lies about what it really was going on in Ireland. These same people concocted a story that there was.
Yeah, well, let's get this straight. I think there shouldn't be a Northern Ireland. I think it should all be under Irish control, and you shouldn't be in the EU. But just because I tell the Ukrainians don't be in the EU, I don't think Ukraine should be part of Russia. How about Ukraine for the Ukrainians, Ireland for the Irish, Mexico for the Mexicans? I mean, that's what I'm talking about here. The country's for the people, not for foreign corporate colonizers. So I agree with you. The New World Order actually is neo-colonialism.